You can have everything in caregiving, but you cannot do everything. And if you try, you're going to burn out fast. So how do you decide what actually needs your attention? This is where the 4Ds come in: do, delay, delegate, or delete. And today we'll talk about how to use this simple framework to make your caregiving easier, more effective, and way less stressful. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregivers Support for Christians, the podcast where we equip Bible-believing Christians with biblical wisdom and practical help for caregiving. If you are a spouse, the adult child, or a family member of a person living with dementia, this podcast is for you. Here we show you how to think differently about your dementia caregiving journey, and we make it clear and simple and easy for you to change your results. We go from chaos to calm. Have you ever juggled? Now, I have tried. I have never been very good at it, but I could juggle about 3 oranges before I would start dropping them on the floor. It is a very specific technique and a very specific way of adding the oranges or the balls or whatever it is that you are juggling in order for you to effectively juggle. Like I said, I could do about 3, but I could never get up to 4 things to juggle. Whenever I would get to 4, I would start dropping every single one of them. Now, I want you to stop and think about your caregiving. Caregiving can feel a lot like juggling, a lot like trying to juggle too many balls. So in caregiving, as in juggling, some things are okay to drop, other things not so much. Right? Today, we're going to look at how you can use this simple framework of do, delay, delegate, or delete to prioritize your caregiving tasks. So the first one we're going to look at today is what you have to do. These are the things that only you can do, the things that nobody else is able to do for a variety of different reasons. So some tasks are things that only you can do as the person who is helping the person that you love. Colossians 3 verse 23 talks about whatever you do, do heartily as if for the Lord, right? Now, when we as family caregivers think about our caregiving tasks, there are some key things that only you as the spouse, or only you as the adult child, or only you at whatever role that you are in are uniquely equipped to do. You are the person who knows the person that you love and are helping living with dementia the best. And only you in that particular role or responsibility have the ability to actually to do those tasks, to make those decisions. So what kind of things are those? Some of this has to do with key decisions. If you are the spouse, and the key decisions are your wife ends up in the hospital and requires surgery, you as her key decision maker are the only one that can decide whether or not that surgery is the right thing. Or if you are the adult daughter who is advocating for her mother because her mother needs additional medical testing, and you are the person who is liaising or advocating with the physicians to get her the help that she requires. Or you might be the spouse of a person living with dementia with younger onset, and you are the only person who has the ability to be intimate with your spouse. There are certain things that only you as that particular person can do for the person that you are caring for. So you need to know what those tasks are. You need to sit and think critically about what they are. You have to identify them. How do we identify them? Well, we identify them starting with our roles and responsibilities based on our God-given relationship with the person that we are helping with dementia. If you are the adult daughter or the adult son and you are married, your primary role and responsibility is your spouse. If you are the grandson of a person living with dementia and you are not married, but you want to be married, then those are things that you have to consider and think of, right? You have to know what your own role and responsibility is specifically related to that particular relationship that the Lord has put you in with this specific person that you are supporting and helping with dementia. Because our only purpose in life is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. That is why we are here on earth. Every single one of us is here to glorify God. And we do that in how we respond to and live out our faith in relation to other people around us. So the first thing that we have to do when we are prioritizing our dementia caregiving to decrease our stress is to really know what are those core things, roles, tasks, responsibilities, decisions that only I, as that primary caregiver, walking with that person who I love, can make with and for them. So that's the first one, what we need to do, the thing that nobody else can do but me. The second thing that we're going to look at in this framework, in this method, the 4D method, is how to delay things. Not everything needs to happen today. And this is actually something that I have come to very later in my life, right? I always used to think, things have to happen right now. But there are things that feel urgent in our caregiving, but that really aren't urgent. And there are things that we need to postpone and not feel guilty about because we are maybe internally putting this pressure on ourselves to get these things done. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 talks about it. There is a time and a season and an appointed time for everything. So some things we need to be able to postpone without feeling guilty. And for me, what that looks like is my husband and I actually sat down and had a conversation that it would be best for my parents to move next door to us. But we actually have postponed implementing the plan. We have delayed implementing the plan, and I don't feel guilty about it because it's what's best for both my parents and for me. And now I don't feel guilty about it at all for delaying this decision because it's not a crisis right now. It's not a crisis yet. Not everything has to happen all at the same time. What does this look like, right? When we don't delay certain things, we put pressure on ourselves, and that will ultimately result in later as burnout. When we don't delay things that we can delay and do a little bit later, we put pressure on ourselves to the point that it will cause you to become overwhelmed. So how can you implement something here? You can make what we call a later list. Put everything that you can, that you think of that you might be able to delay on a list for you to do later on. So what are some things that can go on your later list? Some things like outside yard maintenance that may not be urgent, minor home repairs that you can delay on doing as long as it's not deferred maintenance that's going to impact the house. There are things that you can delay, including, deep cleaning and organizing, things that can wait. There are other activities like attending every church gathering or social event or volunteering or taking on extra responsibilities. These are things that we can actually put on our later list. The Lord gives us all a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy, and we are required to steward them well. So that is the second one. So we talked about do, delay. The third one is delegate. we are not meant to navigate our lives alone. The Lord puts us in relationships and in community. So there's an analogy out there in the world. And if you've ever, well, I'm from South Africa, so we braai, Braai, which is a barbecue, but not. It's culturally a little bit different. But when you make a fire with coals and all the charcoal coals are together, you get a fire that's hot. But what happens when you separate one of those coals out on their own? Over time, that coal will die because it needs the heat and the other coals around it to remain hot. So we are not meant to be alone, which means that the Lord has put people in your life that you can delegate things to. And this is a part of being a wise steward. Stewardship is real, right? Exodus 18, verse 17 through 19 is the passage in the Bible where Moses' father-in-law comes to him and tells him, what you are doing, Moses, is not good, because Moses was trying to carry the burden and the weight of all of Israel on his own shoulders. And this is where Moses was to find 70 elders of good repute that could help him carry the burden. Moses had to delegate, right? Stewardship in caregiving is real. We have to think about what tasks can we delegate to other people. I'll never forget, recently I was at a caregiving support group where I was talking to a husband who was taking care of his wife, and he believed, and this is a false belief, that no one else could provide her with the care that she needed other than him. Well, dear listeners, that is a recipe for burnout, because nobody is designed to do dementia caregiving alone. We are not supposed to do this alone. There are tasks that we can delegate. Sometimes we have to be creative in how we think about delegating tasks, but there are certainly things in your life that you can delegate. I want you today to identify one task that you can delegate. And I know we as family caregivers, as spouses, as adult children, we feel awfully alone a lot of the time. But the reality is there are people who are willing to help us. They just don't know how. And so one of the biggest challenges we have is we have an expectation that they should see the need and fill the need, but that's an unrealistic expectation. We need to tell people what it is that we need. I've been a little overwhelmed the last couple of weeks. I've had a lot of medical things happen with my parents that have required me to have a little bit of divided attention. And my husband says to me every day, how can I help you? What can I do to support you? And I literally told him, groceries, food on the table, do the laundry. You help support me in these ways. So I delegated a lot of tasks in running the household so that I could do the primary caregiving tasks that only I could do. So not only did I delegate, but I also did, like the doing part, the thing that I know that I'm the one that has to do. But in order for me to do that, I needed to delegate. Well, there's certain things that I've also delayed. So that kind of works all together, right? Now, the last point for this 4D method, the do, delay, delegate, or delete. Some things just don't need to be done. Some things just don't matter in the big scheme of things. So what we need to do is be able to let go of what doesn't need to happen. Sometimes this happens because we have unrealistic expectations. We have unrealistic standards for ourselves. Luke 10, verses 41 through 42, Jesus was speaking to Martha. He said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted, because she was doing certain things that she didn't need to do right at that time that could be put aside for the better thing. And so we need to really look at our standards. We need to, and this goes back into the doing part, right? What are our roles? What are our responsibilities? What are our relationships? And then we need to delete tasks that really do not matter right at this moment in time. So how can you do this? You can ask yourself, what would happen if I just stopped doing XYZ and then let it go? If there really aren't tasks or things that you cannot delete, then you need to either delay or you need to delegate those tasks in order to create some time and space. Probably one of the biggest things that I would recommend that you delete is the burden of carrying caregiver guilt. The reality is you are not going to make everybody happy all of the time, including the people who you love who are living with dementia. And we need to delete that as an unrealistic expectation, right? And so I encourage you today, dear listener, to critically look at your caregiving journey, your whole entire life. Your caregiving journey is not in isolation. It is in a microcosm of your life. You, as a person created in the image of God, have certain roles, responsibilities, and things that are innately yours to do. And your caregiving is within that reality. And so what I want you to do is just sit this afternoon and listen, or whenever you're listening to this, and think, what do I absolutely have to do? What are things that no one else can do but me? Are they key decisions? Is it intimacy? Is it advocating? Identify them, and those are the things that you know you have to do. That's the big rock. If you've ever heard the analogy of a jar where you put the sand in and then try to add other stuff and it never works, right? If you take the jar and you put the big rocks in first, then there's space around it, right? And then you can pour sand in and the sand will take up the rest of the space, or pebbles and then sand and then water, so we can fill up the jar. But those big rocks are the things that only you can do. Then the second thing is, what can you delay? Things that feel urgent but aren't urgent, that you can postpone and make a later list. Then what can you delete? What can you delegate? What can you give to someone else to help carry your burden? And don't feel guilty about delegating. And then fourth, what can you delete? What are tasks or responsibilities or thoughts that you might be able to delete and change how you are navigating your dementia caregiving journey? So I really hope today's episode was encouraging for you. I am excited that we are going to be doing another free workshop on March the 8th. So if you haven't signed up for one of our free workshops, now is a good time to sign up. It's usually the second Saturday of the month. This month it'll be for March 8th, which is coming up soon. So go ahead and go look at the link in the show notes. It's thinkdifferentdementia.com/WSL. Will take you to the link to actually sign up for this month's workshop. So I hope this episode was edifying to you. I do try to make these practical. I do try to make them short. I would love feedback. If you like these episodes, please like, subscribe, and share them with your families. The reality is sometimes families can hear it from a third party, but not so much from you. So why don't you go ahead, and if you have siblings or if you have children that are navigating this journey with you, share these podcasts with them. Let them listen so that they can also start to learn how to do it in a different way. We can make this easier. It doesn't need to be this hard. The Lord did not create a world of disorder, and dementia is not as confusing as people make it out to be. And I'm here to radically reform how me and you, as family caregivers, particularly Christians, think differently about their journey, how we can glorify God and enjoy Him forever despite our dementia caregiving journey. So go ahead, like, share, and subscribe, or sign up for the free workshop on March the 8th. And as I try to remember, which I don't always do a good job of, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And I will see you guys in the next episode.